Okay, let's call the meeting to order at whatever time.
I will.
Yeah. And you're taking attendance, Suzanne?
Yes, I'm all set.
I would like to ask for your permission to make a slight agenda adjustment. Beings is listed twice on the agenda, so I would just address it once. And I'd like to give a short little report on board and commission meetings that was held on April 27th. So everybody's okay? We'll add that to the agenda.
Can I ask whether anyone minds if I crack the window?
That's a good idea.
Great, thank you.
So,
I think we're supposed to have a motion to adjust the agenda.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Please, by all means.
Motion to add to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Like a motion to approve the minutes of the April meeting.
I read it, I could approve it even though I wasn't here.
Okay. And second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts on the agenda? On the minutes from the April meeting? Shall we vote to accept them? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about the morning after I returned from my trip. I showed up here at 9 o'clock with all the other boards and commissions. And one of the things that was discussed was that we're basically tapped out on memory on the system that we're using now. And apparently we're using a free or streamlined version of the system. And to continue using it is going to be fairly expensive. In addition to that is a little bit of a obsolete system. So we're going to town is going to Microsoft Teams. And I think they're going to roll it out as of July. And meetings after July will be basically able to be streamed by the public. The public can watch the meetings. The public can comment on the meetings. Another nice thing about Microsoft Teams is if we have handouts or wherever, we're able to put them up on a screen and everybody can see the documents, including the people that are watching at home.
Are we going to get another screen for up here?
That's the next thing I was going to say.
Okay.
So it's a fairly expensive operation with the screen and everything. So they're initially going to it's initially going to be used in the main meeting hall. I think the plans are to get another unit up here, but not immediately. And I actually think it will make our meetings more efficient and better. And when the town is up and running, I suggest we probably move downstairs to take advantage of the new technology. The other thing that I know that Michael has some thoughts on. The other thing that was passed out to all the commissions is the Plan of Conservation and Development Handbook. This is we're due to having a new plan and a new open space plan every 10 years. They were actually contemporaneous. We had ours slightly before the POC plan of conservation and development, and some of our stuff was plugged in here. But as Martha said, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a 10-year schedule. So each commission was kind of given some homework, things to look at, and I will pass that around in an email to all of you so you can kind of take a look at what it covers for open space and conservation. And then the last thing is there was a little discussion, kind of a briefer on FOIA, freedom of information. And technically, if we all have a discussion about an issue via email, that's considered to be somewhat of a meeting. So one of the easiest ways to basically avoid that FOIA trap is to not do reply all. And that's also a good way to keep our email boxes a little neater. So it's for example, doing a work party or Andrea's doing something, a happy hour, and you're going to attend or you have something you would just reply to the sender, not to everybody. And that has the ability to reduce our meal plan significantly. So, public comment. Is there anybody on the phone that would like to comment on an open space issue?
There are. I have one more thing about the FOIA, meetings that aren't like planned meetings, but where, was it more than 5 of us are in the same place at the same time?
Yeah.
Obviously sometimes it's a social event, like a happy hour, or it's a work party, and, do we have to publicize it?
We do
sometimes
not.
people
We do
drop
not.
out.
If groups are free to meet socially, as long as business is not discussed.
Okay.
And for a work party, one need not notice that either.
Okay.
It's not like we have an agenda or taking
No.
votes or anything like that.
We're just out there flying.
Well, quietly.
Yeah. Very fun.
So speaking of votes, I neglected to mention that we have 2 voting members who are not in attendance today, Fred and Christine. So if I have your indulgence, Ed, yes, I would like to see Michael and Joan as voting members today. And if we have the next absence, you'll be seated out. Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about go into open space property stewardship. And for the new members who may not have met him, our experienced steward, Peter Norris, is here today. Peter's from Deep River and he's been working for the fish for how many years, Peter?
No, 5.5 now.
Yeah, doing a great job. And do you want to talk about your report, Peter?
It's pretty self-explanatory. I think things are drying up, but we didn't have a downpour today. So we'll see what the areas look like. But meeting a lot of nice people out there. That really are, I get a lot of nice comments about the commission and what we're doing out there. So, but other than that, I know I only have like a minute. But the report's out there, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Trees are down all the time, and I've been able to cut them up either by hand or I go back and bring the chainsaw in. But there's no issues except for that one that may not be an issue, but on the McCullough.
Yep.
It was creepy.
Someone wrote to us and said the tree was rocking in the wind and they were afraid it would break and fall over. And Peter checked it out and the tree's kind of moving the wind anyway.
That's what trees do.
The ground is
But if no one's there,
But
it was at least 3 feet, the girth of it. It's not something that I would want to tackle.
Okay. If, for something like that though, Peter, if you do think it could be a hazard, and you would suggest that it come down, we can have a Yankee or Wilcox or somebody going and do that.
Especially the leaders, sometimes they're riskier, the person cutting them.
That brings me to a point. Have you done any chainsaw training, game of logging or anything like that?
No, I just learned when I was 16.
Yeah, I did 2 sessions on the game of logging and learned just how much I hadn't known for 50 years.
Yeah,
running a chainsaw.
Yeah.
And it's a very good program, and if you have a chance, look into it.
Yeah.
And it was the sessions I went to were sponsored by the Avalonia Land Trust, and mine was paid for by the Lime Land Trust, where I'm on board now, and so it was eye-opening, I'll tell you. It's run by, each session is run by a professional logger who is well versed in logging safety, and some of the stories he likes to tell are eye-opening about just how dangerous. Probably, he said he thinks, pretty sure that logging is the most dangerous profession in the country.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well, there's a neighbor of ours that had an issue. He's a pilot for American Airlines.
Yeah.
And he his wife were out back there cutting a tree on cheap spots him. And part of the tree up top broke.
Oh.
And he didn't notice it. He came down and it took his scalp off.
Yeah.
But luckily he was airlifted. Everything's fine now, but he still isn't flying. It's been at least a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's those loose branches coming down are what are known as widowmakers.
I'm curious, Karen, what does the land trust do? I know I've seen pictures of John Lathrop and his hair and everything. What do you do in terms of making sure your chainsaw people are trained or?
You know, that I don't know. That's something I have to check with Edie, the stewardship chairman. I'm not familiar with. I know that they've hired, professional companies on the big stuff like that, but I don't.
John had taken training.
Okay.
Yeah, most of what I do is cut up the
Stuff.
trees that are falling on the trail already, so
Yeah.
it's one, maybe two cuts, and it's easy.
Yeah. But sometimes those, I mean, if they fall and then they're hung up,
Yeah.
that they can be some of the most dangerous.
Right, and those are ones for the most part, that fall by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know where the stress are, and if you start to cut which way it's going to pop or whatever.
Yeah.
That's to me. Anybody?
Not looking at the frame.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Do you recall who put it on that one, the organization?
Well, it was it's an organization called the Game of Logging,
Okay.
and they hire professional loggers to actually run the sessions and train people, but they're sponsored by the ones I did were sponsored by the two land trusts, Avalonia and Lime. And what I would do, Peter, is to get the contact information, is call Christina White, who's the executive director of
I can do that.
Lime Land Trust.
Yeah, I'll give Christina a call.
Okay.
And if you're willing to, I don't know, 2 weekends or whatever, you're willing to give up the time, we can put you through that training, Peter. Particularly if we can do it by July 1st. This fiscal year.
I'm not traveling anymore, so at least not.
So in addition to Peter working with us, we are, Andrea and I interviewed a second steward candidate who we selected, Isaac Kazukin. Do you want to talk a little bit about Isaac and his background?
Sure. He's a young man who lives in Salem area, New Haven, had the background in studied biology, and done some coursework in ornithology, herpology, ichthyology, and ecology, and I believe has led some research protocols in the salt marshes, banding of birds, and when he was working in Maine, the University of Maine, and has taught some college courses, sections in the when he was an undergrad, a teaching assistant. So he has some research background and has done educational guiding, which tipped the scales for us in deciding between the two candidates. He's working in a bar restaurant presently, so has some flexibility in his timing. And he apparently accepted our offer
He has, he's very interested. So as Andrew said, he's working in a cafe, but his interest is in wildlife biology and being outdoors in nature. He was quite excited, I think, for the opportunity to work with us. We're in a little bit of a lax period in that Katie Blocka has handled the offer letters and so forth, and she's off this week. I talked to Martha twice this week, and Katie was actually down in Martha's office today, again today because they're going somewhere to a meeting or something tomorrow. But Monday, the offer letter will go out to him. Then he needs to come in and fill out some paperwork with Tracy Beatty, he's a payroll person, to get him working. So as Andrea said, he has a background in research and ornithology and so forth. The way I kind of look at it is Peter's going to do what he's going to do. I don't see any change in his time or whatever. Isaac would be available if Peter's traveling, and we have a storm, a lot of things come down, and we'll have somebody to go out there to help Peter with some of the projects that we'll talk about shortly, all the different bridges and so forth. And in finally, I hope he can do something maybe with Joan and Michael or resident birders on ornithology or vernal pools or a little bit of cataloging what we have on our open space properties. So,
I'd be interested to find out, I mean, what his background in salt marsh. Because I'd be interested to know whether he would be interested in doing a survey of the Horseneck Creek property, because that's in the state's threatened and endangered species blob, and so it would be helpful to know, to have somebody actually do a survey, run some transects or something, and find out if there's anything there that we need to worry about and what's there, and then get the information back to us so that we, when we are invited, if we ever are, to make a comment about the production of the building of the dock, we can make hopefully some recommendations on how that's going to look and how that's going to be done, and so that we mitigate whatever impacts there might be in the construction of the dock.
It's just as a, while we're mentioning birds and Horseneck Creek, just a point aside is that for the last 7 years, there's always been an osprey couple that have nested on Amanda's property, a nest that her late husband put up. It was replaced last year with a little bit of misunderstanding, and a new stand put up. And this spring, we saw a couple ospreys in the nest, although they weren't really building the nest. It looks fairly low within the stand. And then for a period of a week or so, there was a lot of, call it aerial combat, like aerial jousting, where maybe one was trying one male was trying to kick the resident male out or whatever. And we saw one of the ospreys sitting in the nest, and we were hoping that it maybe had laid some eggs. But for the last week, we haven't seen any osprey on the nest, so we're kind of disappointed about that. Everything's okay.
Yeah, that was the same with the one on the Marsh's property that's on the Black Hall River. There was a bird hanging around for maybe a week. And I didn't see a lot of nesting material, but it hasn't been around.
I think maybe the fact that the eagles are close by is a deterrent. We've got a nest on our property that didn't make it last year for whatever reason, and my guess is that a great horned owl took the babies, because they are predators. They'll eat anything, anyone, including eagles. And I saw a video of a great horned owl carrying a great blue heron into its nest.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
So getting into some of the maintenance that we have, so I apologize, I was going to try to make copies of this. You all can kind of lean in and show this. So Nancy Merrick, who we talked about as possibly working with us as a steward, ended up taking a full-time job for the Nature Conservancy up in northern Connecticut. She still has come down and done some research for Ann and Sloan, a couple drone flights at Ferry Landing, and we did a drone flight Saturday at Bartholomew. So this is the parking lot, and the trail comes in here. There was a temporary bridge that was put in. Evan was saying that it was hard to get footings in there because there were so many roots and rocks. And however it is installed, the water level came and it basically fell apart. There's a couple planks leading out into the water, but they did not go all the way across. Now Nancy had basically chest-high waders, and she walked in probably from here to Michael, and she was almost up to her waist. The water's pretty deep. And it stretches for a good way, so we want to see, I walked up this way to see if we could kind of adjust the trail that way, and there was really no break in the depth or the width of the water. And then I came down this way and even tried walking along the trail, and there was a lot of water there too. So, excuse me, Andrea. So she's going to basically try to stitch together some images, and she did both still images and she did video, and she did the video at the slowest speed the drone could fly. Because last time it looked like it was just trucking right along the land, and it was really hard to do that. She's going to try to do some analysis with ArcGIS, so we'll see how that goes. Before I get into that, I wanted to ask you, Andrew, do you know this young fellow?
Yeah.
So he did an analysis of Ames for us. If you know how to contact him, maybe you can look at some of the footage that Nancy did, because she said the best way to analyze that would be using ArcGIS. I don't know, is anybody else familiar with that program?
No, and I would like to know who it is, because, the Fair Land stuff is going to...
Alex Lessinger is 26 years old. He graduated 2005 from the high school. His mother may still live in town, but through my son's friends and son, I could probably track him down.
Okay. Well, for start to find out if he's living here and local and would be still interested in doing some volunteering for us. So I will share that he did a quick analysis of the flooding in Ames that we use as part of our decision to close the walkway there.
Did you have time, or did you investigate at all an alternate?
Yes. So that's what I was just going to show you. So
okay.
If you look on here, the blue is where the trail went. My little squiggles in green here that's water, substantial water. However, if you walk here, there's a meadow. You cut down towards the road, and there's a little stream that runs along the road, but it's a baby stream, and you can cross that pretty easily. And then there's a lot of ledge here, but between the water and the ledge, I think you kind of come around and connect to this trail. I don't know how dry that loop is.
That's pretty high ground.
Is it? So
yeah.
That may be an alternative.
Yeah.
But I think the best way to determine if that's a possibility is to look at the aerial images that Nancy took. We can kind of get a sense of how the water is. But I was talking, actually, we had a couple people stop by to talk to us. We were flying the drones. Everybody wants to know what you're doing. And a couple people said that they like to hike the property, but obviously there's an issue with the bridge. But they were all saying that things, even though the rain has slacked off a little bit, the ground is just not drying very well. It's just holding a lot of moisture. And Nancy is quite confident there's some beaver activity in there too, which is probably contributing to the rise in water. But I'm not sure why that would make the water down in here rise it seems that the beaver activity is more over in here.
Yeah, there must be a connection, or it's the groundwater that's just rising.
Yeah, I
And
think,
once the trees leaf out and they start acting as soil pumps, you'll see the groundwater descend 7 or 8 feet by the end of the summer.
And how is the culvert acting and behaving in all of this?
water is running through the culvert, there's a little bit of blockage there. There were some wings on the beaver deceiver. I wrote to Mike Callahan, and I sent him some images of that right before I left on vacation. He hasn't gotten me back. I need to call him again. I think at the least we should have him come out and repair it, because the town took a lot of muck out of there. And, you know, in doing that, they slightly damaged the beaver deceiver. I can't criticize them. They needed to keep the water running, but it probably needs a little bit of help.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think he has a Connecticut, Mike Callahan has a Connecticut partner,
okay.
a woman who I can't remember what, she has a different name for the, it's not, I mean, it's sort of an associate, maybe more than a partner. But anyway, I thought she had come on one of the visits to take a look at.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're at with Bartholomew, and I hope we can have a kind of a path forward, at least with what we should do there by the end of this month. As Nancy said, it would be about 2 weeks for her to analyze her images.
That's about Alex, because this is going to have no specific end date that I could guarantee.
That's fine, yes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say about Alex, if, even if he's not living nearby, this is the kind of work he could do remotely very easily.
Yeah. Nancy expects, not surprisingly, that her files are going to be quite large, but she's going to put them in Dropbox to give us a log on so we can access them. And I'm sure Alex could do the same thing.
Yeah.
There was no contact that he gave us with this?
There may be, I'll take a look. I had his email. I'm going to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I should be able to find an email. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I thought I wanted to check if you knew him right.
Yes, no.
Then my contact came out of the cold.
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
So as far as Ames goes, Rob McCarthy said he's tied up. We hope to at least listen in this meeting. I wanted to say that I talked to a realtor. I didn't talk to. I emailed multiple times with a realtor today, looking at different land properties, and there's a number of things that she and I will discuss probably next week. But beside that, we should probably start to do some investigation to building what Rob would call a boardwalk as opposed to a bridge on Ames. Seems like this is the travel season. I wrote to the young woman who just took over from Lori Giannotti to run the Connecticut Recreational Trails program. She's out in Nevada this week. When she comes back, I want to find out what the deadline is. I think the deadline will probably be around December of this year for grants in 2025 for the Recreational Trails program. And I think that we could have a good argument because it would connect to other trails. One of the things they hope to encourage are trail systems, and this would work very well with connecting with the land trust trails as well as our own to provide access to areas that have been inaccessible, and also to further nature education. So we have the beaver displays up there, and if we walk through the pond there, I think we can be a location that we might have a nice viewing point for other activity in the property.
So some of the other footwork between now and December is meeting. I know you put a shout out for anyone wanting to work with Rob, but it would mean meeting with him, investigating the company that he's proposing to do some work, understanding what the permit process would be through wetlands, if we go that route, or if there are alternate methods in order to be able to write this grant in December for some funding.
Correct. That's a nice point. So if there are no other options for accessing Ames, this would be probably the best secondary route coming in on Evergreen. So what we need to do is come up with, I don't know what comes first, the chicken or egg, some type of rough outline of what we would hope to do and the machinery that would accomplish that work. And Rob has that, and we can talk to the company, maybe we can go on site with the company and have them take a look at it and see what other work we want to do. I mean, you talked about taking out is it a culvert or pipe in there?
Yeah.
We're going to go there, we might as well make it natural.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you had a front loader with a big heavy chain, and you could lift the culvert out and dispose of it somehow. I don't know what you do with, the culvert's about as big as this table, so it's going to be.
Well, the issue is how close can you get with machinery, with the water in there and the mud?
Oh, yeah.
And then secondly, how much can you pull with a chain?
Yeah.
So, but that's, those are all engineering questions that certainly I'm not. And then when you have a sense of what you're going to do and how much machinery you're going to have in there, I guess that's the chicken or egg thing. Do you go for permitting before you start down the road investing, and do you go for permitting right up front, or what would you
I would
think?
usually talk to Eric, get a feel for what he thinks. And there's a section, I haven't read it recently, in the Inland Wetland Act that talks about uses permitted as of right. That means you can just do them. You need to contact the wetland agency that you're going to try to exercise that right, and they have the right to figure out, does it meet the as of right need. But then there are also some activities called conservation-related activities. And I thought maintenance of trails, and especially maintenance of existing trails, would be covered almost routinely, because it's just to provide access for the public to open space. So you're not developing a bridge to, someone's house, or it's more of a public use. And I need to investigate that a little bit.
Well, I know the land trust had to go to wetlands for a stream crossing on the trail out 3 Mile River Trail.
Yeah, stream would be different, but I'm talking about areas where the trail is
just wet.
Wet.
Yeah.
And it's obviously it's wet because it's going through a wetland, but if the trail has been there for 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been doing some sort of maintenance so that it's not, it's drier for hikers. I mean, you could make an argument, but, it's too new for me to figure that.
Yeah.
Is that waterway there considered part of Lucky Brook?
At Ames?
Yeah.
That is Lucky Brook.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that in effect is like headwaters of the Blackhall River?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm curious, I don't really have a sense of what's the trigger that would cause one to need to seek inland wetlands approval. I know we did that for Bartholomew and other bridges we put in it. What's the extent of the work, the amount of water that's covered, whether you go to the ground or?
Michael's suggestion is to touch base with Eric.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Exactly, and he's going to, whatever he decides is what's going to happen.
Well, and the reason I ask that is not necessarily for Bartholomew or for Ames, but we haven't get into this shortly. There's a number of water crossings and water issues that we're facing. At what point do we go to Eric and say, what do you think about this, or do we just come up?
I would crossing by crossing,
Yeah.
like when you're close to actually getting a decision, And he signs off, well, this is the use permitted as a right, as a residential property owner, if you have wetlands, like I have wetlands kind of just over my stone wall where it gets into a natural state. So theoretically, from that wall to my house is within the 100-foot review area. If I'm going to put in a garden or something, that's kind of a use incidental to the use of residential property and is a permitted use, in my humble opinion. And my neighbor just got Eric to sign off. They were repairing, almost in the same area, an existing patio that was within the 100-foot review area. They weren't going to change the size or the shape. They were just, replacing broken stones and things like that. And he signed off on that, even though it was within the 100-foot review. But I think it falls under that use if you read it.
Who's your neighbor? I'd like to shake his hand. Even talking to the town about.
It turns out that I don't know if it's Will's mother or his wife's mother, but she was a land use person in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And so before they bought the house, they knew they had wetlands and they would have to. I saw them drop off a load of stone. I'm going, oh. And I have to send a note to everybody, guys, I'm on the Wetland Commission. If you're doing anything within 100 feet, please talk to Eric Knapp. I don't want to have to report anybody in my neighborhood.
So getting back to this one particular spot at Ames, then the other issue that I'm intrigued by, and I think certainly plays a role in this, is what's the hydraulic process on that spot? The water at one point, and it was quite high, and it seemed to have dropped precipitously. A number of people said that the water level really fell, and people were complaining that, where there was a nice pond, there's just kind of mud puddles now, and they're worried about mosquitoes in the summer.
Is on Ames?
On Ames, yeah. So
I suspect it's Beaver Dam collapse with a lot of rain in early winter.
I keep hearing two theories. One is that there was so much rain and so much water backed up, it just burst through everything. That's one possibility. The other possibility that's been suggested to me by a couple of people, even talking to a couple of people at the Hikers Happy Hours, somebody went in there and broke up the dams deliberately, which has certainly happened in the past.
Well, there were people in the pond breaking up one afternoon when this is a couple of years ago. We're in the pond on the other side from Ames, where the pond is where we put the camera, whenever that was.
Oh, yeah.
That was, and there were 2 or 3 people working on what obviously was dam destruction. I think probably because the water level had gotten up. Before the beavers moved in, there was a lot that was for sale on the other side, off of Whippoorwill Road, and part of it was low, and my guess is that they bought the lot, they built the house, they put a pool down below the house in the floodplain, and the beavers came in and flooded the floodplain and maybe flooded the pool. So that's the usual thing that happens. Somebody puts their woodshed or maybe even their house in the floodplain, and why there are no regulations about building in floodplains, I have no idea.
There is, if it's mapped.
Yeah.
The HUD flood map, 100 foot. The building department is supposed to look at that. The wetland agency should look at it.
Yeah, well, a lot of things are supposed to.
And we
happen,
did. We just
don't in this town.
But I want to get back to Rob and tell him that we'd like to at least do some investigation. Does anybody want to volunteer to work on a little ad hoc group with Rob?
I just,
Okay. And may I ask you, Michael, given your background and your current position, maybe you and Rob, who's I guess the
We're on
Is
planning.
he the vice chair on planning, or?
I don't know.
I think he's essentially the vice chair, he's not actually the vice chair. He represented Harold at the meeting of boards and commissions.
Okay,
So if the two of you could go to Eric and just kind of run it by him, see what Eric, kind of give Eric a heads up of what we're considering, you know.
Yeah, once we have some detail, because he just needs detail, like how long, where exactly is it?
Yeah,
Where
we need to do all that
first.
And Fred is also interested in working on this too, so we'll have a good group, I think. And that kind of segues into Andrea's very nice little
Which one? Is it the-
summary of all the different things we need to do.
Ah.
And one of the things we can do is maybe have, get Peter or Isaac to do some good measurements for that weather and games.
I've got 100-foot tape if anybody needs, but I'm happy to, we could go out there.
We're all just kind of spitballing, pulling off the top of our head, well, it's 100, it's 150, 200.
No, it's like 400.
Which is 400.
I think it's probably just eyeballing it.
And I think it could even be, it could stretch a long way, when the waters are high, it could stretch a long way.
Because you want to build it high enough so that if the beavers come back to the culvert.
I redid it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
That's all your information, I just formatted it and changed it.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I can just read off of mine.
Okay.
But, so basically, we have 6 properties. A to Z, Ames, we just talked about, with the bridge, with the discussion with Rob McCarthy. Bartholomew, you just spoke about, which is presently not. I'm also kind of dovetailing into the hiker happy hour in terms of prospects. The Bartholomew is presently off the table. We'll double back to Ames. On Champlain North, that's the one on Library Lane. There are several footbridges.
That's all.
I'm sorry, south. Near the entrance as you turn left, and I think Peter might have others, Champlain North, off of Whitford. I want to revisit the Barbizon Oak, because we talked about that being trimmed and or rerouting the trail, and I don't know where that conversation went.
It didn't go anywhere, so let's reintroduce it. So I'm happy with trying to trim some of the branches so we don't have to reroute the trail. And the other thing I think we should do is to take that kiosk out of there too. We have a sign, stay out, but you have a kiosk on the other side of the sign, and people might want to go up and say, what does this say?
Right.
Well, it needs to be replaced too, it's not in great shape, that kiosk.
Is that the old kiosk?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that we,
Absolutely should be.
I don't know that we even need one. We have a sign now, we have a kiosk.
Yeah, and didn't even need the kiosk,
Yeah.
because we have signs at both entrances with maps.
Yeah. And maybe we can knock it apart
Yeah.
and take it to the front.
That would be the easiest.
And I think you were talking with some tree companies about...
Yeah, there was Bartlett, there was Save a Tree, local, Yankee, the owner of Yankee lives off of Whippoorwill Road.
You have quotes from any of them?
No, I haven't actually talked to them about it, so.
But we also have the connection that cuts a tree for free at, Horse Neck.
Affordable Tree Farm. I think
Yeah.
Killingworth did some work at Horse Neck Creek. They were reasonable with that. They did a little worse than I expected them to do.
They cut the tree down.
They cut the tree down. They didn't cut
And then
anything
Peter,
that fell.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
and then we trimmed the tree a little bit so it's not blocking,
So do you have a contact?
it was free.
There you go.
I go back to them first. I'd go back to them first and report that before. And see.
Is there someone volunteering to follow up on that, or?
Who was in contact with them? I don't.
Do you want to have them?
I can do it,
Yeah,
sure.
you're kind of our forest guy.
Okay,
Yeah, they would have to have a climber come in, because they're not gonna be able to get a truck in there with a
Yeah.
cherry picker. So they'd have to have a climber to
yeah,
climb, and it's not a lot, it's like 3 or 4 cuts of 2 critical limbs that are kind of over the
yeah,
trail.
and I
That's
think what
it.
the limbs should simply be cut and
And
left in place.
Yep, and we could move, you know, if they cut them up small enough, we could move them.
Well, we don't need to move them.
Well, we don't, in case they fall on the trail.
Well, we don't move them. No, you move the trail out from around so that the critters who will use the
Yeah.
limbs will,
Well, the idea was to cut the limbs so we don't have to move the trail.
oh,
They're just one, some of the limbs look really secure. There's no rot, nothing, and it's an oak.
yeah,
So, but one of the limbs that unfortunately is over the trail looks
Yeah.
suspicious.
well,
Ray had put out a photo with a,
Yeah, and that one should be cut, and, you know, if it falls on the trail, we just,
yeah, go around it.
yeah, they cut it up so that if they're man-sized, woman-sized sizes, we can move.
Yeah.
Or drag, or whatever, out of the
Okay,
trail.
I did talk to the owner, and I met the owner of Yankee Tree, who lives on Riverville Road. I didn't know who he was until I went and had a friend who was a friend of his, and they invited us to come over after dinner one night, and I just, in casual conversation, he said, well, if it's an oak, the limbs will come off in pieces, and if they come off naturally, oaks generally don't, you know, a full branch doesn't come down from the tree trunk out. It comes off in pieces, it rots on the end, that comes down, it rots some more, that comes down. So it's years an oak disassembles itself. And, but once they're on the ground, they become habitat for salamanders and wood frogs and
I think if we
all sorts of-
get whatever remains of the trail.
And that's kind of at the end of the limb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we're pretty good. We can put like, I don't know, stakes with
so should we get
pink ribbon
2
or
quotes?
something.
Should we get 2 quotes, this affordable tree and
Sure.
either whippoorwill
Yeah.
man or,
Yeah.
Or Bartlett did some work for us on that tree, didn't they?
They did. There's another company, I'm drawing a blank on the name, the owner's Derek, he cut some trees for me.
He's Middlesex tree.
Middlesex Tree, I'd say, but he's really good.
Yeah.
Really reasonable. He came in quite a bit under Bartlett Yankee for our tree work, and he's a good friend of Wayne Abrahamson too. In fact, his father and Wayne's father were friends.
I see. Okay.
So he might do something for us as well.
Okay.
If we could maybe get that done this spring, that would be terrific.
Sure.
And I can talk to you about reaching out to them.
Yeah.
keep in mind as a deadline, October, we have a plan for June for our hiking happy hours, but we need to plan for October.
I think.
And we have to get the word out soon, so there's a deadline,
Yeah.
before October, end of summer.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about, I don't know when we want to talk about that, but I was thinking it might be interesting to, this wouldn't be a very long hike, would not be, people aren't looking necessarily for a long hike, but an interesting hike, and going to Horseneck Creek Landing and do
We'll
a
come
very...
back to that.
Yeah, we're gonna-
Time out,
Okay.
time out. I want to get wrapped up on this maintenance.
Okay, so we have the October happy hour, but we have a more immediate and in my mind, important deadline, and that's June 30th.
We've got that covered.
Yeah,
Oh, June 30th.
Yeah.
June 30th.
That's only if you spend money.
That's fiscal year
So
end.
we have,
Oh, I see.
we're running
That's
behind
better.
our expenditures this year.
June 30th.
I just
Spend
got,
our money.
I just got some information from BMAC about requesting carryovers, but there's no guarantee you're going
All right.
to do that.
So that's,
So.
we need quotes before the end of this
As much
month,
work as we can get
so
done.
we can get the work done by June 30th.
Yeah. We can keep Peter working as many hours as
All
he
right.
wants to.
Kevin's going to start with the quotes, and then we're going to pass it on to, all right. I love it. Also on that area for anthills, there was talk about wrapping them in behind some
Fencing?
fencing. Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry, we're leaving, you get to
Well, actually, the Democrats are meeting here tonight, so
Ooh, that's
Real
all set.
true, all right, we're lucky.
Thanks for checking.
Okay, good luck.
So that's some expenditure because we'll need
Yeah.
fencing.
And so if you're keeping a list there,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, if we're going to do any fencing for the anthills, I know Ann still has a rural fence sheet in her
I do have a
garage
rural fence.
that she wants to, but we could have,
It's pretty high, I don't know how high
Yeah,
you want.
well, we
I
don't-
think we were talking about something fairly low.
No,
We can cut it in half with a
we
wire
had
set.
talked a while back about trying to protect some of the old seedlings under the barbizon, if there's the next generation oak coming
Yeah,
up.
however, I will say, some of the fencing can be used for the plant that we're going
Okay.
to install.
Yeah. So we have to buy
Buy more.
shorter fencing, 4-foot fencing or whatever. Whatever height would be appropriate, depending on how high the seedlings are to keep the deer from munching it. I don't know. No, no, we need to bring 50 trees, but maybe, I don't know.
No, two or three would be
Yeah.
fine. The best looking, healthiest trees are saplings.
Yeah, I was looking at them last fall, and they're definitely being browsed by deer.
Yeah, okay.
So we need 4-foot high fencing. How much of it?
Well, that's off the top of my head.
Oh, I see,
I think we need to check.
To measure out
how high
the-
the trees are in here.
Well, I
Oh,
think
so
that
the tree, it's twofold. It's the trees under the
Baby oak,
the
baby
baby,
barbizons.
baby barbizon, baby Barbie.
Barbies.
Barbie had babies.
And the anthills. So we'll need a counter and a measurer.
Well, they don't have to be, they just have to be where the deer will try to stick their nose in through the fencing, and as soon as the tree gets up above the top of the fence, usually they don't. There's plenty to eat out there, so you just have to get the little guys up to 4 or 5 feet.
And fencing height was adequate.
Yeah, well, that's.
Whatever that was that 4?
I think
That was
it was
4, yeah.
When Fred and I planted that walnut out at Rook's Meadow, that still looks fine, and that was
Is it walnut or chestnut?
oh, chestnut. Sorry, I thought it was chestnut.
So these come in rolls, right?
Yeah,
A certain
well,
this
is your-
amount.
I had a roll of fencing I was looking for, and I didn't know whether I drove. It was wrapped in plastic.
No, well,
Not that I want to stick Michael with another job that he's going to have to do. Well, Michael's developing a good relationship with Green Center.
We have, they recognize our name, and they gave me credit and got a post, so. Because we just purchased some stuff, and they do, well, if you order enough, they'll deliver, but they probably have fencing.
Yeah.
And your beard in there?
Or Beard would do it too.
I got what I have at Home Depot.
Okay.
And
It might even be cheaper.
I would suspect it's cheaper.
Yeah, that one has it too.
The town has is it beard? That's the name of it?
Beard has an account there.
That they'll go us, and we also, not that I would order. Well, we could possibly order this, the town has an Amazon account too, so I could order it from Amazon on a contact.
Maybe cheaper.
I can get it for veterans discount too, so.
Great.
It's not online.
So,
Well, the town doesn't pay tax, so that's, we don't pay Connecticut sales tax. That's the advantage of using, the town account. It's probably Public Works has it, and now we're
So,
piggybacking on Public Works.
so you'll get even more discount.
Theoretically, yeah, if they would combine, they may not combine discounts. I don't know. could try it.
Okay.
So, was that Peter to purchase it?
Well, let's see what we.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's see how tall the trees are.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Possible footbridge near that bench, that cedar bench.
Yeah, it's getting wet every spring.
So that's a low-key project.
Is that Champlain North still?
Yeah.
This is all Champlain North as you're entering. So you could just, a couple of simple planks with a rolled-out log or a stone just to maybe 6 feet long.
I think a little longer.
Evan, do you have some more of your locust, whatever?
I have 2 locust logs that I cut for Bartholomew, which are no longer going to be used at Bartholomew because it would be too short. So, yeah, they're 20. I think they're 20-inch, maybe a little longer, and they're indestructible. So.
And then how many feet of plank would you suggest? Because who's ever doing Beard or Home Depot, we're going to get more than one thing at a time.
I'll have to walk it, but I think it's...
Where would it be delivered?
Yeah, that's the other thing, delivered or stored kept. I could talk to Martha about trying to keep some stuff at Public Works. Dante was not real keen on that. I think he has a lot of space over there.
So we're looking at fencing and
I have
a couple of planks.
4 8-foot 4x4s, pressure treated, because we wanted to make our order from the lumber yard that we use from Niantic to deliver. We didn't have $500 worth in the order, but then they didn't charge us for the $200 order to deliver it.
So you have
Of course, they could.
4x4s.
Yeah. We were thinking that would be for post and signage primarily, but you could cut them up and, use them to support walks.
I have one too, that 8-foot 4x4 that was one from the sign that was taken down on the golf course property at Portsmouth Creek.
Yeah.
Would those work, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just figure out your width, and it's 24 inches, and
How do you, if we need to go a fair distance down the trail, Peter, and we're carrying logs and 8-foot things, how do you get them down the road, so to speak?
Well, I've taken them down carrying myself, or I did use a wheelbarrow for one section on Ames, on the red trail.
I mean, I would think every land trust has to deal with that, getting just lines to where they're needed for repairs or whatever.
Normally, what I've seen for the Green Mountain Club in Vermont and has trail crews that are working all summer, and it's all pretty much horsing the material on people's shoulders. And hiking in with 2 or 3 guys.
teams of under 30-ish kids. Well, the thing is the 4x4s, we can cut them to the right size ahead of time, and so then, you can put them all easily into a wheelbarrow or something. Barbizon Oak, you can easily wheel stuff there.
You can get a vehicle down right in front of the Barbizon.
You could certainly get a vehicle down to the point where it starts to drop down in that little
It's monkey, yeah. But, so, you can, and then I have a portable saw that we can cut the 4x4s on horses, so you can cut them there. The thing is,
This is not very far in. I mean,
No.
You can walk it from the parking lot.
Right.
It's not a bunch of,
Yeah, but one of the things, let me interrupt you, excuse me, that Michael talked about, maybe friends of certain properties. I'm jealous of the wonderful proof that the land trust has for all their properties,
What?
in terms of your volunteers.
Oh,
And so I talked to Sabine O'Donnell today, and my occasion for calling her is that someone was interested in volunteering as a steward for Watch Rock. And we've got a couple, apparently that takes care of that, and it's going to be shut down on the weekends.
yeah.
So that person, first option is closed. So Sabine says you have a work party, something like a 12 or whatever, but if we're having work parties, we could try to see if we can get some people. I can see if this person might like to work for us on a volunteer basis. When you have a work party, is it mostly your members or
He
your stewards?
has a list of, well, we have, the stewards for each preserve, and then there's like multiple stewards on some of the larger preserves and stuff like that. And when Edie wants something done, she'll post something to people that have said over the, through the website or whatever, that they would like to have, help volunteer, or, whatever. And, if they're talking about stewardship, then she just has a group of people on that list that she, does a flash email to saying, pop up work party, we're going to do this, this, and this. Let us know, kind of thing.
It's not going to come easy, and it's going to come over time. It might be something that we should try to cultivate to get kind of a cadre of volunteers that could help on certain projects like weekends.
Well, the natural thing to do would be kind of get friends of Champlain North, friends of Champlain South, and those are the neighbors that live around.
Yeah.
And hike probably the most on the property, so they're most knowledgeable about it, but it takes some effort and cultivation to do that.
Now, we've also done she does workshops to build benches. And then, we'll build the benches and then kind of truck them out to different spots. So I think at this point, we almost have at least one bench on every one of our preserves. With a real simple plan, simple structure.
Okay.
Well, maybe rather than detailing the various chores for each trail, because I sent that out in an email, we could make a date for a work party, and we could hit this aim, what are we doing, Champlain North.
Take them one by one.
Yeah, one a month or something like
I think that sounds good.
Every other month.
Or doable.
I mean, with Peter's consultation, try to determine, which are the ones that seem like they're going to be wet year-round now versus the ones that are going to maybe dry up when we get some warmer, drier.
Well, they're not just,
and other things, yeah. And there's other, I did add one thing on here too, is that we need to reroute the McCulloch Ridge Trail, given the transfer of ownership of the building lots to Habitat for Humanity.
well, all of the trails can use work. In
Yep.
terms of priorities, it's a dart in the wall as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And, because they all need something. And the trail that we identified for the first hike in June doesn't need it.
No, that was in good shape.
Yeah.
Second one, maybe a little.
But because Champlain South has the June 30th deadline for the tree removal and this will involve this one on Champlain North, South, requires a few other materials.
Well, I'm planning on doing that one.
It's just kind of random, but it's,
Well, so in other words, front loading the ones that are gonna use more money,
minus, yes. But we could still, Peter and I could talk, we've walked some of the trails, and we could identify the other materials for the other projects, and then purchase those as well, and then have them stored somewhere.
Yeah, the only thing about getting large pieces of like 2x8s that our pickup trucks aren't that large, so you'd need a pickup truck with a rack so that you could put if you needed a 12-foot length, you know, it costs more and you don't wanna cut it. So you wanna get it to the site and use it, you know, unless you're doing small, because you have to do turns or something, and then you can use smaller lengths to accommodate the turns. But if it's a straight shot,
Yeah, do 12 feet.
it's 12 feet big and heavy.
I
and
have a picture, Evan and I have Toyota, see, when you put your bed down, 8 foot
Hangover.
it doesn't extend much, because the bed is 6 feet and the
It does
hip
put
Would it be
tailgate
better
down
to
is
buy a
more like
12-foot something, but you cut it in half, and then
the
it
bed is
gives you a haul
actually 6
in?
feet. Yeah, and then.
But then you gotta cut it at the lumber yard, because you're picking it up at the lumber yard if they don't deliver.
Yeah,
Largely
yeah.
extend, yeah.
They cut
But
it.
is it cheaper to buy a 12-footer
It,
and
it,
have it cut? Or
you'd have, I think,
two 6-footers?
yeah, it might, I haven't done the calculation, it might
Is
be.
it much different in pricing?
It's a little cheaper, it's always a little cheaper.
Yeah,
A little
usually,
cheaper,
yeah,
is it significantly?
I don't know.
Because we
I don't
only
remember even what we
spend the
paid for
money
the 8
anyway,
foot, yeah.
so, yeah.
But, you know, 8 foots we can do in a small pickup. Yeah. So that's not a problem.
Should we look at a May or June work party?
Can I just say,
Or what?
there's some plants in your yard that might have to take priority on
Of
a
course.
work day.
Okay, well, we could.
Just so they don't die.
No, that's a good point. We could schedule 2,
Mhm.
and we could
I
try
have
to.
some dates that I was gonna
Perfect.
float,
Okay.
just for my purposes, since I was
Yes,
hoping to be there for that particular
Yeah,
part
that
of
makes
it.
total sense.
So I would also, if we could classify the jobs into 2 categories, the jobs that Peter and I can do
Mm-hmm.
together, smaller jobs, smaller bridges, whatever, and then jobs that we're hauling more stuff where we need more people, and those are the ones we can put together, more extensive work parties for.
Okay.
Sure. Yes, I'm not going to tell you which ones you feel that you can accomplish, just so that you're a partner, but you and Andrea can work that out.
So what's the next step? You're gonna walk with Peter for the South Champlain's first, is the next part? Give me your plans.
I have to do Champlain North this week, so I'll measure what we need right in front. It's a good 20, maybe 30 yards.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
This is the trail, the bench that looks at the oak.
the left, yeah, you start at the red trail going in.
The other thing too is I keep coming back to Karen's organization. Yeah, you've had the Boy Scouts that put in a wonderful bridge that we hiked on for happy hour, you know, to look into, maybe we can get some young folks that want a Eagle Scout project or whatever, or just want to volunteer as a group. So, I mean,
Yeah, it's doable.
Yep.
I mean, we could, with effort and coordination and outreach, with a planned date in advance of more than 2 days or 2 weeks, make a shout out for help.
Mhm.
But that's, you can't have your people without your project.
Yep.
I think if you have your project, you know
Yep.
when it's gonna be, what it's gonna be, then, I know with the land trust sometimes, Mother's Day weekend, come out and help. And,
Yeah.
I'm on that list and I participate, but, you know, there's some days that comes out 2 days before the day, so, you know, whatever.
So if you're gonna walk Champlain this week, Peter, suss out what we need in terms of
Yeah.
length and stuff like that, and get in touch with Andrea, and then we can see if we schedule work parties for Ann's planting and for our trail work.
And there are also, and I can try to walk with you, or just, there are 2 areas that we had modified the steepness with, already with 2
Oh, yeah.
of our work parties, but they're still pretty severe. They don't zag enough that, so it required 2 reroutings.
Mhm.
Well, maybe there's projects that don't require measuring and
Material.
And a lot of material, that if you want to, like, get moving on something, and get a workday on people's calendars, you know, they could be, you know, something in the short term while you're sort of getting your information together with the
Yeah.
others, you know? Because I sympathize with, you know, wanting to get the ball rolling, and, you know, I've been working on this for a long time. And if I didn't have the plants withering in your yard, I would give up.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay, so Peter and I will powwow.
You can show them the hunter stand. For 5 years now, I can't find it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either.
What, is there a deer stand out
The
there?
stand, you have it out there.
Like Flat Rock down by, like Maywood, down by like.
Well, maybe we want to keep the deer stand and to keep the deer from eating the oaks. And then we could all have something to eat. We could have something really delicious at Hiker's Happy Hour. Little venison sausage. Anyone?
I think we need to move on.
That's fine.
Okay, so, just for your information, Michael, Andrea, and Russell all attended the Venza app training with Yukon Clear. Peter and I went previously, and Russell attended a workshop, I think, at the CLCC conference on Connecticut Trail Finder. And I think that would be a great thing for us to transition our trails to, but I'll let you talk about it.
So I sent out, I apologize, I forgot to send out yesterday or the day before, but it came out in some links to Clear and some other sites. The two things I think Andrea and Michael can make any comments, but the training was pretty good. I think it was, the app when you first see it is not that straightforward. You know, the layering effects and everything else, it's not trivial, but it actually is quite nice in terms of being able to mark things, you can mark positions. It's not clear exactly, since you guys have used it more than I have, perhaps, what the limitations are for the free app. And there's a cost per month at one level, and what's called the pro level would be something that is really used for hardcore assessment and being able to drive where the trail's going, kind of highlights you going from the trail. The free app, you can mark places, you can take pictures, you can post pictures. So I guess two questions I have to the group as a whole. Peter, Greg, you sent out an example where Peter had mapped places that needed work. That's one thing. Stewardship would be part of that. And then everybody would have to have some level of competency. I don't think I have a level of competency that actually do this that well. And secondly is, do we really want to pursue going into Connecticut trails? And that would be something I think would be useful. If you go on Connecticut trails, it's one of the links I gave you. It's a run by the state extension. They're very, very helpful. They'll really do almost all the work for you as long as you provide a geo PDF or something that's GPS linked in terms of tracking through the trails or network of trails on the open space land that we have. You go onto Connecticut Trail Finder, there's nothing listed either from the Lime Land Trust or us. That area around where we live is blank. It's got Rocky Neck and it's got one other state park, I can't remember.
I thought there was one in Lyme.
Gillette.
Yeah.
Gillette is on that.
Oh,
That's the
that's
only-
East Haddam.
No, they have it. Is it in the hand? Like-
Yeah, Gillette is in East Haddam.
It's pretty much right on the line, isn't it?
There's an Atlantic State Forest,
Yeah.
but it's not the one closest to us.
In any event, this area is a dearth of information. There really isn't much of anything there. I thought that would be a very unique way to kind of open up, no pun intended, open up the open space for people outside.
It's better than mine.
I don't know what the plans are for the land.
You know, I don't know, but when I was out in California, I had downloaded an app, an All Trails app. And I noticed when I was, here now, that I've noticed a lot of the preserves are on it. Like I know, I did Hoffman when I was looking to see the damage, and that was, mapped out on that one. I don't know how it got there, and I don't know.
All Trails is open source as well.
Right.
People can actually
Yeah.
add things.
But that was, I noticed that, and I don't know if we're on any other, what other mapping we've done.
The thing about Avenza is that I have been working more and more with Yukon Clear with the Gateway Commission that I'm on as well. And Yukon Clear, obviously, that's their app they're promoting, but Deep has also basically adopted it as the app that they want to go with. And when we took the training, Lori Giannotti, who was the former recreational trails manager, and Kim Bradley, who's the current manager, both on our class, along with a couple other people in the team. So all the Deep people are trained here. That's the app that they're going to use. So.
I wonder if that's because, All Trails is open source and therefore perhaps not, super, I've used All Trails a lot and it seems very accurate and easy to use, but, maybe as a state, agency, they're worried about whether or not there's, corrupted information.
Well, that's the nice thing about that. I think the nice thing about the trail finders is you end up having a trail manager. In essence, verifies what goes in, what's on the site. And the site can't be changed by, or you mark something as a highlight, but you're not going to change the basic map. Have you had anything else to add about the workshop?
Well, there's a base map that's a freebie, because you can just download Avenza as an app, and then if you don't go to the store and look for the freebies that you can download too, and they're mainly state sites, there's a freebie one that if you open Lime, our trails are on Ames and Champlain North and Champlain South. So someone has loaded what looks like, I haven't walked it with the app in my hand. I don't know how I act. They could be leading you across some of the deepest, the drowned. But there's something on a lot of the open spaces that we have, at least when I was looking at it.
That's on the Avenza, on the Connecticut Trail.
Avenza.
Yeah, which would be, authenticated by us.
Yeah, Greg, didn't somebody approach us, or I mentioned to you that someone would put our maps on, and you said,
I think right after the two of us attended the session, I think you communicated with somebody about putting some of our stuff on Connecticut Trails. It's probably Emily Wilson, who was one of the workers. She's promoting Connecticut Trail Finder too. And my own hesitation was that I was looking through some of the stuff that Russell sent out today. That I thought that we needed to do a little in-house research before we move to stuff. They're looking for the difficulty of the trail, the lengths of the trail, the description of the trail, photographs. They almost need to.
When I talked to her at the Sherry, I think it was the meeting of, they'll actually, if you give them a map from Avenza, they'll actually go in and define all of that for you. They'll clean up the maps.
If they will do that, that would be fabulous.
As long as you follow the criterion for submission, then they'll come back, and that's what she was saying, they'll clean it up a lot.
And they will also show us how to create that base that they need to work on, this geo-referenced PDFs. We have PDFs. They just aren't geo-referenced to a point on the ground that they can take and use the GIS and locate that very accurately.
So all we have to do really, like quite literally, is walk or trail our trails, each site, using the trail function, send that into, I think it was Carrie, and they'll clean it up. And what we have the option of doing is marking points of interest, things that we want to have people highlight. The kicker is you have to name a trail manager for each of the maps. The free version of the app only gives you 3 working levels at any given time. It's not like clearly how you would do 6 or whatever properties. It doesn't matter that they're network maps, or they're network trails more than in and out or loop trails. That's actually fine. But you have to, there's a trick, and I messed it up, I was trying to do it on, I think it was Champlain North, after the class we took. And you have to stop it at the right time, so you get a trail for each of the individual trails, and then it combines them all on the map. But it's actually very nice, and I think you could get a lot of help from the state, help from CLEAR, and I guess it's extension. They're all extension payroll people. And it would be a nice way, I think, all of the open space trail networks, on a nice site that would actually be interesting. People could look it up. Oh, I'd like to go look at that trail.
Right, once we got it geo-referenced, you can pick up that data and put it on the town GIS, because you're creating these tabs that are geo-referenced with the program. And I'm going to use it to, I've done kind of a preliminary interview of Vernal Pools on Champlain North. Didn't have it then at the time, but I'm going to go back to do more and take photos. It will be referenced on each site, so I'll know where they are.
I'm going to pass this around. I don't know if I did it well, but it's just illustrating what you're talking about.
That the trails are there.
And the other advantage for this group, if everybody has, as I mentioned before, some capability, or you could actually walk the trails where you're doing maintenance. You take a picture, post the picture on that spot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that was what I had in mind when I was envisioning possible uses for it. Looking at Andrea's thing, she has the yellow trail off the road is Plain Footbridge over Strand. Well, you know where that is, but I wouldn't have any idea where that is. Maybe it's one of your pins.
Yeah, I think it has a better internal application than anything else, just simply because of the, kind of broad usage of all trails. I don't know if the state, if there's any benefit in having the state have more access to what we're doing, in terms of future funding or something like that. I have no idea, but I think it sounds super useful for what you're describing in terms of letting all of us know in a way that isn't shared with the world, unless we want to, where there's a specific problem or, something that we need to all decide, make a decision about.
This is a event that it's probably very rudimentary. You and Russ in particular could look at it and you would see. I sometimes forgot to turn off my pause, so you'll see a line going way the heck out and say, oh, I'm driving home now, I didn't turn it off. But on here, and I don't know how I would share this with you.
That's the other thing that maybe Peter, because you actually mailed out a Word map version. We have to be able to at least all be cognizant of how to share it. Use a central sourcing for it for some respect. But that's the beauty of them being able to clean it up. We're doing different kind of trails, it can't be altered unless we authorize the alteration.
So then, having them clean it up for us, and then us be able to utilize the cleaned up version.
Right.
That sounds.
And we wouldn't necessarily share work maps, I'll call it. But, we would be on the Connected Trail site, just to bring people in and tell them what's going on.
Well, plus we need to find out is, okay, what do you get on the paid version of it? And how many licenses would do we get 10 licenses for?
No,
is it, $300 per license per year? But I haven't even gone there yet.
I think it's like $159 a year for the pro version.
per license, so you'd need,
1 to 3, and then it's like 121 or 5, 4 to 9, something like that. But you don't necessarily, I don't think we need the pro version. But we may need, there's a version that comes in at $50 a month. You remember that? Something about
well, I'm sure the state could, you know, they must be using it on their state parks with all of the people that work on the state park,
Right.
so that we can find that out, but, you know, if it's 500, you know, I don't know. But you could start using the application by just downloading it and just walking around and try it out.
And I think it's perfect, Craig, for what I think you first intended, was to use it as stewardship, right? To highlight these points or take a picture and post it. And you can do that quite easily, actually. And you don't have to, you can just keep walking. To go on Connecticut Trail Finder, again, that's the beauty, they'll clean it up. You know, I know all the school boys, she showed that as an example of how they clean up the maps. To do that, though, we would have to designate, called a trail owner, you know. And I'd be willing, I'm still not, I can't say I'm going to become that much of an expert that fast. Maybe Peter will work with you. If people are interested, you could pick one of our sites, do that as a pilot.
Yeah.
And try to get that on Connecticut trails. And, you know, I was the trail manager, I'd be happy to do the trail
That would
manager
be
for one,
perfect
see
if
what
you
happens.
wanted to do that, Russell.
Yeah, and then work with Carrie and
Emily, was it Emily?
Emily, Carrie and Emily, and then see how it goes.
Yeah, they're very approachable. They gave me a private tutor the second time around here. And that's how I got better. It's like anything else, you gotta use it.
Yeah, if you don't use it, it disappears quickly.
Yeah, it disappeared from me from April 23rd. It is not, I will say, it's not the most intuitive.
No.
I find when,
Joan.
Joan, yes, thank you, Joan, Fred, and I did a walk. I had the Avenza, Fred used the All Trails, and he did not take photographs, but he tracked it much easier, I thought, than I, and there is a way to do the photographs, and it gives a elevation, a time, a distance, all on one sheet. It's like, oh, we did this much,
Yeah.
I found it
Super easy.
super easy.
And Avenza doesn't do that. That's
No.
something that I didn't want.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you distance and
No.
elevation change.
Which is, I think, important for another purpose, to see how, is this a moderate trail, and, you know, how steep is this, and so,
Not all trails is, you have to buy it, right?
no.
Well,
You just don't know the accuracy.
better if you buy it, it's like $60 roughly, something like that. It's actually much better.
Free.
You get, I had used it once where you get somebody adding stuff, and you're off, and
Really?
there's no trail,
Okay.
there's nothing here.
That hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm sure, you know, Russian roulette.
That would be great. So as part of that, if you wanted to expand also, just kind of consider not only Avenza, but
This one was great.
Avenza in combination with another app. And also, I'm to figure out how Avenza might work
I just got rated.
hand in hand with our current
I
one
said last week,
system.
it was really buggy, there we go. Okay, so parking lot.
We have basically,
We're near well,
talked with
you know.
that, they sent maps up, said she works for you guys as well, so I know the maps are pretty identical in their look, right, Lisa Nicolai? Yeah, I'm sure that's who it is. She has the little emblem on the bottom of the maps. We were talking about at least going digital with them, but it'd still be basically a PDF that you'd view.
Yeah.
So,
What would be the best parcel of land to use, our best pilot?
I would say maybe something small.
yeah, I say what would be the simplest with the trail system that's most compact or fewest number of trails, maybe Champlain North.
Either Champlain North or Bartholomew.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you,
Well, we
So,
can-
it's kind of exciting.
up in the air. I just want to get, speaking
But
of
that might be useful in where to relocate the trail.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have elevation and distance, that would be important to know.
Well, they can get that, they would clean that part up, like you said, they would provide that.
The only thing, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing, it doesn't appear, at least I couldn't find it, the elevation change.
No.
We would have to identify easy, medium, hard, in
Yes.
terms of the trail, which is fine. But I don't think it, I mean, like all trails, at the end, it tells you how far you went, how much up and down you did. But
I'm surprised it doesn't, truthfully, because it's like, you know, your watch can do that for you now.
yeah.
So, well, I mean, maybe that comes with the paid version, I guess.
So I'll do Champlain North, I'll get in touch with them, and we'll go from there. And I'm not here next month, but the following meeting, and then we'll see where we run.
And the one thing I would like to mention for all these projects, for Andrew's maintenance projects, or Russell working on this, or Barbara's, if anybody is interested in a particular thing, we could always use help and have these little ad hoc groups if you're interested, you know. Please express that interest and we'll be happy to have you.
Sure. Good, thanks.
And do you want to talk about your Fair Landing report?
Sure. I have to pull it up from my email.
Did you ever find your lockers, Michael?
Sorry?
Oh, I brought some, just in case they're yours.
Has a little
Yeah.
green tape on it.
I don't know, it's in the car.
Okay.
Well, I have a pair of lockers at the house, at my house, that was left,
Do you have
which
green
is why
tape?
I thought, no, because yours have green tape, you said.
Yeah, mine has a little green
Right,
tape
and
on
so
it.
you looked at the ones that were left and you said, those aren't mine. So I figured somebody took a pair that, and thought it was theirs and it was yours and not theirs, but I don't know.
I need to,
And
yeah.
I apologize for missing, but as Andrea knows, I get scheduled 5-6 games a weekend.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Well, we got good stuff done, so
Okay.
thank you for being willing, and next time, we'd be happy to have you there. So I have to look at my own notes, and, yeah, I sent you guys all this in an email, but just, the drone, Nancy Merrick did the drone work for Ferry Landing on Friday, and then Saturday, I guess she did.
Yeah, she said it went great on Friday.
So that will be something coming that maybe we'll put in, Clippinger can have that. That would be phenomenal. But the workday was tremendous. We got a lot done. It didn't really rain until the very end. We got the sign installed, and we picked out an area for the plantings that we have, and just so people know what we got. I went out and found 5 high-bush blueberry at a local nursery, and then we have 3 shadbush, 3 smooth witherrod, which is a kind of viburnum, and some asters and some cardinal flowers. And so, really need to find a date soon, and I have some dates to sort of throw out to people now, and then I can also email those dates too. But it was really exciting, actually. After everybody had left, it was just me and Mark. I found the geraniums. I thought that I couldn't find them at all, and there were like 10 of them. And then we found some more of the ginger. And so I had been kind of worried that the perennials had maybe not really made it. And you just have to look a little more carefully.
Did you re-flag them or something?
I did, and we flagged the Jack in the Pulpit that we found, and a couple of foxgloves that have volunteered. So it's exciting to see the volunteers, and also that what we put in made it nicely. You know?
Do you want to be marking them, like with something more than a yellow
An
flag?
ID, you mean? That's a great idea. We could definitely think about that. I mean, the fact that this property is not so public, really, But we could certainly, maybe we could do something like Avenza and geolocate them and identify them. You
There
know?
was a woman from a garden club that was part of this group. But even if it's not on that, and initially, if you have some marker,
Right.
then we all become edified, and
Right.
then for grant writing, you
Right.
can say, oh,
Yeah.
that's great, we have a ginger, we have a
Yeah.
and this is what it looks like.
Right, I mean,
Exactly what she was doing, she was marking.
the location of their plants,
or-
yeah, which is great. Terrific tool for public gardens. Yeah, right now, they're being marked so people don't walk on them.
Right, that's
For the
true.
most part.
Yeah.
But, so that was, I thought, really exciting. Eager to move forward with the next step. And, you know, still ongoing, working on the video voiceovers and editing, and the one thing that I just chatted with Andrea briefly about was the idea that for the wildlife cameras, I really think, especially since we're not going to have a dedicated intern at that property this year, it'd be great to look into the expense of a subscription for remote uploading. Because just getting there and taking the card out and putting a new card in and locking the bear box, you know, if you have to do it, it just becomes a nuisance. It'd be nice.
Do you pay month by month or do a yearly subscription? Can you do it
Month
yearly?
by month. I suppose you could do it yearly, but when I did it, I used my personal credit card. I guess the town didn't want theirs or something, and then I would get reimbursed. It was $17.99 a month, and it would upload to your phone and or your computer. But on your phone, at least, you couldn't look at the videos, even though they were just 10 seconds. But you could on your laptop or computer, I believe. You could
Fine, I mean, you know.
see the videos, and then you could delete them. You could moderate them and modify them.
Great if you can delete them, because.
I think you can. That helps Matt.
I really think that that's a logical next
Do
step.
you want to get together and talk about
Yeah,
how to do that and what it would cost? And
yeah.
maybe we can front load it, pay for it up a year in advance, so you don't have to be worried about.
June 30th. 30th.
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be terrific.
But do you still have to change out the cartridge every month? Is that really what the issue
Well,
was?
if you, I don't know, if you can
Okay.
delete them, if it actually is removing it from the SD card, that would be ideal.
Well, the other thing I was wondering about is when you get the raw footage
Hmm.
or whatever, where do you store that? You storing it on your
Well,
phone?
this
or
is
how
also
flexible is
continues
that
to be
getting
an
to be?
issue. Right now, we've got them on jump drive, which
Yeah.
is
Right.
not ideal.
My brother-in-law has the ability to sees it on his phone. I can ask him what he got and
Sure.
what he,
Yeah,
what
because
it's
you
all
get a
about.
comparison of the different,
Yeah.
systems.
I mean, he
I
was
think
looking
Alex
at put it on a
does
jump
that.
drive.
Mhm.
He downloaded it from my computer to a jump drive, and then he modified that. I gave him also the chip as well that he could also put in, so
I mean, the other
my
way,
role was like,
Yeah, so that's
well, the way I've been doing it with Emily is, through Gmail, Google Drive, but you use up your free space really quickly with videos.
yeah.
So you can put batches on at a time, and then you have to delete them and put other batches on. You know,
That's
but,
not efficient either.
no, but we're getting, we're sort of beginning to figure it out a little better, and,
Has she submitted payment?
yeah, you pay her once,
Okay.
right?
What's that?
The video editor, we put in a payment.
believe I
request
sent-
for
yeah,
her.
I
I should
recall.
check with her, make sure she got a check. They're pretty fast. Because I got reimbursed for like.
And Tracy's good.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's pretty
Michael,
much it.
Horseneck Creek.
Horseneck Creek, the fence is finished.
Almost.
The fence is
Oh, you
finished.
put the last one in?
I sent you a picture.
Nice work.
It's in. Amanda was weeding her garden and didn't wave, but it's in. So, as far as, the next step would be really this, the grant for the signage and figuring out what we want to put on signage. But
Yeah.
the site is fine.
Yeah, I need to put together a to-do list for the Rockfall grant, for the educational grant. And we work with the two of you, Audubon, to talk about birding possibilities at the site. The other thing Mike mentioned, just a quick rundown of the parking areas, Mike.
We have if you've been to the site, there's 2 existing parking areas. One of them extends out into the right-of-way a bit, and maybe the other one does too, but it has trees that also extend out into the right-of-way and sort of protect the parking area. We're not going to cut the trees that are in the right-of-way, so you can kind of drive into the parking spot and maneuver yourself. But we thought when we were discussing it, when we were out there putting the last sections of a couple fences in, that we really should wait for the harbor management people to really have their permit for the dock. Because where's the turning circle going to be? Are we going to cut any trees? They're probably going to have to go for zoning approval. And then it would make sense to relate our parking more to where they need it. So they're going to do a turning circle and then they're going to park. But we may not be in the locations where it is not, because it was convenient, because there weren't any trees there and it was close to where.
So this is the driveway, and the right-of-way extends beyond the driveway. And as Michael said, one of the parking areas extends a little bit into that 30-foot width. And Dick Gates put in things for us, but there's trees along here, so it's not like we're blocking anybody like parking here, because there's trees on either side that prevent anybody from using that land.
I'm hoping with time Amanda may mellow out a little bit, because Blackwall has boulders within the 40-foot right-of-way, blocking our right-of-way and Amanda's, which is much more significant than occasion,
What's
But-
the dock going to be? Do we know?
The dock I'm not going to be able to attend the next meeting, but I think it's either the application has been submitted or is about to be submitted. It's been modified by DEEP. It's only going to be a 4-foot wide access way where we kind of located it in the narrowest place to cross the salt marsh. But then they've got to do a 90-degree turn, and the ramp down to the float, and the float is going to be parallel to the shore, because Horseneck Creek is so narrow they can't go out perpendicular to the shore. So although the DEP is letting them widen near the end where you've got to turn with your kayak to go down the ramp, that's going to go to 5 feet. But I haven't seen the plans yet. And, either they're not, Terry said she'd send them to me once they were available. So
They're working on just the dock application. Do you know if they've done any work on the upland and how one would reach the dock line? Yeah. I'd like us to be involved in that, because I would like to have.
They know that, and I will reiterate it when I'm there.
Whatever roadway or turnaround or passageway goes to that dock.
Right.
I would like it to be the absolute minimum, so we preserve as much of that forest as possible.
Yes, that's, I'm not, theoretically, a engineer has reviewed and is going to put a seal on the dock as to how it was designed. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the documents yet, but I would think DEEP requires an engineer to certify it. So once we get there, but that's just going to be the portion, that from the mean high water line down. But they're going to need something for zoning. We had to go in, and I had to wait 3 hours to present the trail and the fence. Well, they're certainly going to have to go in for maybe not the dock, because that's not in zoning's control. Zoning kind of takes that first 100 feet from the mean high water line up. Maybe not even the mean high water line, from the edge of the shore upland up. So they're going to have to show, on a more detailed plan with an engineer, a surveyor, and where the turning circle is. And I'm going to be urging that happen.
And why is there a turning circle? What, I mean, what?
So one could bring your vehicle in as close to
And
the
unload.
dock as possible.
Yeah, and unload.
your kayak
Kayak.
and get back to the area.
Yeah.
The kayaks aren't that hard to maneuver.
Well, I'm hoping we can shrink the width of the trail rather than having, have a wide trail rolling your kayak to the dock. I'm thinking it might make more sense just to turn in, drop it off, park, and then you just have to move it down the dock, the ramp, the dock and the ramp.
Well, sure as shooting, someone's gonna park in the turning circle and leave.
No doubt about it. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Bridget, you want to talk about happy hours?
Sure. Karen's team put on a really robust happy hour, 28 people to Miles Creek Preserve, and a majority spilled back to the Old Lime Inn afterwards.
I didn't count it Old Lime Inn, I didn't say, by the time I got there, I think it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I really didn't focus on how many people went back to Old Lime Inn.
I would think at least as many people were at the end as hike, because you lose from the hike, but you gain people that didn't hike.
Yeah, so but the room was full.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
yeah.
area of the inn was pretty full, and there was quite the line at the bar.
Yeah.
Which was jammed, only because, jammed not in terms, they were not ready for us.
They were not ready.
And we were late.
Yeah.
So just as a note,
Yeah.
and Leslie was a little flustered and apologetic, but
Yeah, well, there were two people at the bar, Leslie and a gentleman who was
He could
serving the
pass
drinks.
for the,
He was having a lot of difficulty ringing up the orders. So she was kind of having to ring up her orders and his orders.
Yeah.
and the trivia night was after that for the Dems.
Right.
So which was well planned and advertised, which is even more reason they should have been ready.
Yeah.
So they were happy. So that's just a picture of the appetizers, which were more substantial. They had triangular sandwiches and wraps and.
And they ran out of beer. They had to go back wherever to get more Modelo, because
Yeah.
we drank it all.
So just, those are little inconveniences, but should be noted, because
Yeah, it was
you're
very
paying
full.
$100 for a dance, or a bar, restaurant.
Well, and they knew we were, like, it wasn't, we didn't surprise them with 30 people. They had.
We never know how many people are coming, but they knew that they had the trivia night there as well through the side door, but they were,
Well, and even if there'd only been 10 people coming,
yeah.
10 people would have had to wait.
I mean, the drinks thing kind of was hard to be, that's what they do.
I know, it's a bar. And they were $6, $7, and $8 drinks, not including tips.
So, I had heard people saying, well, I thought this was discounted, and it really wasn't.
So it wasn't, which
I can't
is,
remember now.
And did they have service factored in there too? Tax on service?
Yeah, there was a service thing as well. Bob got, I think, a beer, and I had a glass of wine, and he said it was like $16.
right. And then there's a hat for tips, so people threw a couple
I
of
thought
bucks.
they said $5 for beer.
Yeah.
$5 for beer.
Yeah, maybe it's $5 for beer,
Yeah.
$6 for wine, and $7 for the specialty drinks,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I remember two prices for beer and wine.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, they tacked on, I think there was another fee on there. I didn't see the sign, I didn't go to the bar, so I don't know, but I think Bob mentioned that there was something, and I thought, I thought it was $5, some fees tacked on.
They could smooth the process off a little bit. Did you have they had a special drink, was it Prosecco and something?
Prosecco and blackberry or something.
They
It was
looked
good, yeah.
wonderful, but
It was.
It was taking him some time to make each one.
Oh, really?
With a couple pours, and put blueberries in there or whatever. It took him a little time to make it.
Yeah.
I would have thought
that seems to
especially
be
there was a
holding
picture
things
of pictures
up.
on there.
Yeah, but it's
Or
yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
You know, why you
Poor
have-
guy probably.
They got
about
about
10 minutes before people showed up.
Yeah. So these are points that we could mention, and just making it smoother. And
Yeah, I think the wraps and the sandwiches were kind of large,
Yeah,
you know,
it was substantial but hard to eat if you, basically literally finger food that you could either pick up or
Yeah.
thin triangular sandwiches. I mean, it's not
That's
supposed
my
to be
favorite,
there.
as opposed to dinner, exactly.
Yeah.
You couldn't really hold the drink and dine with the sandwiches when you were sitting. You couldn't really do it
Yeah.
standing up talking to someone. But I give them credit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much improved over.
I didn't want to be too picky, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It improved.
So what's the date of the next one?
The next one is June 5th, Wednesday, and Tosh, who, I gave Karen the logo, and she sent it to Tosh, who could put it out, and so, we don't need to go through the discussions that we've had as to which other trails that Joan will speak to, which trail we're liking to propose for June 5th, Wednesday, 4:15. And then we could, we have two suggestions for, September or October.
No, who's doing September, who's doing October?
I think we're doing October.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have it in somewhere, I got slipped in our minutes, I was like, well, open space says, you know, we were alternating, and I think that was how we had left that
Yeah.
last meeting, that we were in alternate. So you have June, we have September.
September, first Wednesday in September and first Wednesday in October, which are September 4th and October 2nd.
So were you guys going to pitch the?
Joan's gonna, yeah.
Well, we walked at Ames, entrance off Evergreen, which I've never been on, so it was really nice to see that and walk it. And I think the shorter, which again, I didn't even know there were two caves, because we went to the further cave the first time, which was the Blue Trail, right? And that took us about an hour and 10 minutes to go. We figured to go out, and then we calculated the same amount coming back would be about an hour and 10 minutes, so it's kind of too far. So coming back, we stopped, we did the Yellow Trail, and we checked out that cave, and that was the one I went to with John Pfeiffer years ago. Potapog took a whole bunch of people out, and the three of us walked up there. It was really neat. Little difficult crossing over, there's like a little stream,
Yeah.
which might be an issue for people who have a bit of a problem, because we had a little problem coming back over it. But that was like, we calculated 30 minutes for in and out, which would leave a good 15 for, questions and people to maybe give a little talk on it. So if we did Ames, that's probably the one we would want to do.
So this is a picture of the path going to the crossing. It's a narrow crossing. There are two stones, maybe three, and all someone needs to do is like stand there with a
you gotta
hand.
just take your time
Did
crossing
you see
it,
it?
No.
which we did, we kind of galloped across.
You want to go for it, Sal?
We didn't fall, but we
Didn't I take a
galloped.
walk there once
Yeah.
before, and was there not a bridge there at one point, or am I just imagining that?
No.
No,
I
you're
don't think
thinking
so.
the other cave.
Okay.
You're thinking
Yeah,
the
the
red
further
cave.
cave, yeah.
So this is literally, my feeling is that it should be, you figure 30 minutes of
Did you see
walking
it?
maximum,
Right.
because there's gonna be dawdlers, and then you're gonna stop, and you're gonna point out the vernal pools, and everyone's gonna talk about this tree, and, as it should be, and, so,
Is
but
this
this
for the next one?
Yeah, the June
Yes.
one.
June 5th. I'm going to be in Maine.
So,
Oh, yeah.
to that point, there should not be a pressure. If we have a chance to, as many of us can walk it before that,
Mm-hmm.
then you can imbue, both of you and anybody else, with your nature knowledge so that we all become a little familiar and aware. We can all share so that we have someone in the front, in the back, and in the middle, and talking, like, what's the word, getting Evan like as if he's on our shoulder.
Oh,
And
right.
doing
Guiding,
we have
guide.
to stop because Mike would want to
Narrating.
talk about the vernal pool, but I don't know anything about, so
Yeah.
I would like to suggest
Look for
that
egg mix.
in addition to Ann's day that we still have to declare, that we do a walk with as many, at your convenience, for as many that can attend. We walk 12 minutes in, and then you point out things to the rest of us. So that if you are not there, it's okay.
Okay. You know what would really be cool, I don't know, if we could pull this off, and how you know, if we could get Ned Pfeiffer to talk a little bit about the caves. That would be.
I don't know whether, just don't tell Steve Ames.
Well, it's not Steve's property anymore.
No.
Yeah, I know. So just as a little background, Wendy Hill, who is the open space coordinator for Lyon, she also is vice chair or whatever of the Lyon Land Trust.
She's the education chairman.
Okay. She gives hikes under the auspices of the senior center and recruits from both towns. And she gave a walk to the caves and Ames. Peter was good enough to look at the trail beforehand, and she gave us a great shout out. She said the trail was in wonderful shape, really great. But she was really interested in knowing more about the caves. She said, how can we learn more about the caves? And so can it be a fun project? We actually, Andrea and I talked about trying to get a grant from Rockwell to do something, but it was a little bit out of their scope of interest.
Well, it might be, if I'm not incorrect, that Ned's PhD thesis was on some of the stuff.
He's done a couple of books.
Yeah,
For that,
and whether we could get a hold of his thesis would be.
I used to talk to him a lot when I worked at the museum, but I don't have his email, but I could maybe, unless you have it.
I don't have it.
Try to get contact one of my.
Is he still our historian?
The town historian?
He's very involved with the historical society, but I don't know if he's quote unquote the town historian.
Would you be interested in trying to signing him out?
Sure.
I'll contact the historical society and see if we can get contact info.
All right.
I have
Or the town
contact
clerk,
info on my.
if he's still a.
Do you?
My charging.
Yeah, I can give Amy a call.
Yeah, if he's a town historian,
He's really
she's
working
gotta
now
have
with
it.
the Niantic Indian tribe, and they're trying to resurrect their whole ways and means.
It's difficult.
Do you know
Yeah.
Hold up.
Yeah.
He's in Nova Scotia or
Yeah.
Carolina.
He's trying to
He
sell
was my son's.
the little garage where we had our parking area.
Oh, I don't know whether, I know,
They did
I'm
a
pretty sure
program
that Graybill did not buy it.
Teacher at the high school.
I think I talked to Jim Graybill and he said, no,
Yeah.
they haven't bought it.
Anyway.
Boards and commissions.
I don't know.
So the other two
I mean, the cars
trails
there
to
and
recommend
I drive by it,
for
it's like
October,
going
one
on
would be
over there,
Horse
park
Neck
there
Creek,
and-
and the other would be the yellow trail that Peter and I took off of Ames, McCulloch at the end of Flat Rock. But you go in the red trail and left on the yellow trail, and then stop at the big rock and turn around. There's also a trail that I pointed out to Peter that continues on the yellow trail, and it goes to the top of the Cedar Grove, and at the top, it plateaus, and the open space and the environmental club had cleared an area for parking to come up from Whippoorwill, but then that was not used. And if you go down that, you're on the road behind Pfeiffer's house or gas station,
Yeah.
whatever thing. But there is on the top of that grove a side trail that goes down. It's not formally marked, but it is well walked. And there's a beautiful vernal pool, and it loops. So here's the red trail, you take the yellow trail, it goes up, and here's the grove, and you go down, and this is the road to Whippoorwill.
Mm-hmm.
If you're here, you come off of this trail, you go down around the vernal pool, and you come back here, so it's like a big lollipop, and you go back down to the red trail. So the question is that our property? Is that still part of Pfeiffer?
He's got about 30 acres back there, so I thought maybe nets.
Is there a way to,
Well, there's two questions.
Yeah.
Whose property is it on? And if it's on our property, can we consider it to be part of one of the existing trails?
absolutely, it's part of the yellow loop.
Okay, because we were only given permission for the three trails, and we have to go back to Nature Conservancy if we wanted to have a new trail.
No, it's part of the same,
When we were walking.
we would argue, right?
I don't know if you were with us when we went with, Michael, might have been as well, when we went with Wayne to take a look at Jim's lumberyard, and we came back to the parking area. Wayne said if you go right from the parking area, up on that little rise there, there's a great view of Brooks Meadow and the pine, and everything like that. No, it was when we did the walk with the Nature Conservancy woman, and
Oh, yeah.
and I said, how could you run a trail? She said, you could, but, you have to give Sarah a call about to clear. And I talked to Sarah, she said, no problem, send us a request, but you actually do need to get permission to put any trails in there.
Well, it's not a new trail. Somebody made it years ago.
Is that where the coyotes were? Remember the coyotes were up there? They kept, if you had dogs and you were walking, the coyotes were trying to come out.
That was on another trail. That was
That's on
another
Champlain South.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was up,
Yeah, it was on the ridge on Champlain South.
Yeah.
okay.
Coyotes had a den, and I think one of the coyotes attacked somebody's dog.
Yeah, because I had, my dog was a pup at the time, and I was like, oh, okay, here, go away. So,
Well,
Johnson.
okay,
So anyway, between the Horseneck Creek and that yellow trail, not doing the diversion, but it would be like 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out.
And then you have to factor in the drive from Flat Rock to the inn, which is the furthest point from in town.
well, we did that one time, we parked at
Mile Creek was, so we could walk in 12 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was Michael, Evan, and I, very few people hiked on a day that was way too hot.
Yeah.
He doesn't call, we're sending him.
But I'm not voting on anything.
No,
Yeah, we did, people covered.
Okay, we're just about wrapped up. So, do you have anything that really jumps out from planning or, wetlands, Michael?
No, planning canceled their meeting tomorrow, and we don't meet very much or do very much on planning. Wetlands is looking at not a lot either. There's a modification to the dam at Rogers Lake, which I did learn some information from the fellow that's maybe the chairman of the Rogers Lake Authority, whom I've forgotten. But 12,000 herring came up the Mill River this year, which was way up over last year.
That's great.
Which was only about 3,000. I was thinking something was up because osprey have been like flying around my neighborhood, which is close to the Mill River and the Griswold Preserve. And they're carrying fish back towards the coast. I'm going, aren't you going the wrong way? No, well, 12,000 herring went up to, it's easy pickings in Rogers Lake.
When they're circling around at the bottom of the fish ladder on Stubbe, not Stubbe, but the Griswold, the Woody Griswold Preserve, that they're just milling around in the pools.
Well, the run has kind of come to an end, so alewives are first, and then I don't know that we get any bluebacks in the mill, but
I don't know.
There are 3 fishways, and so that was kind of interesting. But other than that, doing the vernal pool thing, and I was somewhat embarrassed for those that weren't on the work day. The expert herpetologist and I felt that there was no way there were spotted turtles at Ferry Landing. And Joe Adler at Watermont was birding and saw a spotted turtle.
Well, so my question is, because I was going to put that in the update, and then I thought, is he going into the Ferry
He
Landing?
must be, because he said he went into the wetland. So he must be just walking along the work path that we've created. So, I think he's going individually.
Right.
It's not leaving
No, I'm
groups or
sure,
anything,
and,
but-
you know, one-off like that is.
So
will
we
happen,
have, the deep blob map was right.
Well, we have a turtle watcher at all times.
Yes, and
present.
they did not see spotted turtles.
Yeah.
They saw painted and snappers, which we know were there.
No.
And I did see the spotted when we were there for the work session.
but probably not the occasional terrapin.
You know, this time of year, they're looking for places to lay eggs. So if somebody could come across the road and looking for sand, then they could, it's not hard for a terrapin to go across that little road looking for, a place to lay eggs. So it's possible both of them are there, I'm embarrassed to say.
So the last thing I wanted to mention, I had on the agenda, land acquisitions. There's a lot of land for sale. We don't have anything we're really focused on. I'm going to meet with the Realtor next week to talk about a couple prospects. If anybody knows of land that's just come on the market or it's maybe appropriate, send me an email and we can look at it. I'd like to, if we're going to do something, I'd like to basically move my property this summer so we can shoot.
Well, I'm wondering if it's
September.
worthwhile continuing every once in a while, get back in touch with Mr. Woodhead.
Yes.
Because I'm taking a page out of the real acquisition pro that I knew was a guy, woman named Carol Lee Evans from Guilford. And she worked for the Nature Conservancy. She was the acquisition person for the Nature Conservancy. And she kept in touch with Ferdinand Couder up in Lyme, who had about 300 acres. And over about 10 years, just, how are you doing?
Send a Christmas card.
Yeah, send a Christmas, exactly. And he eventually
But yeah.
said yes, and sold the whole thing.
So two questions about that. Number one is that would be obviously made even more desirable if the land trust gets excellent. And Sabine says you're maybe looking at June for a quote-unquote award announcement. And the other thing would be, since we did talk to a realtor about that, Evan, what's the ethics of going around her, talking to Mr. Woodhead? Do we need to go through her again? How should one?
Well, it depends on whether she still has a listing. If she doesn't, if it's not listed, we're perfectly within our rights to go directly to distribute.
Okay.
If it's listed, hands off.
Okay. So, I think we're at.
All that space.
Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion. Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Thanks, everybody. Nobody wants to stay.